5 years ago, when we started looking into purchasing land in California, we were fixated on owning 10 plus acres because that is what we thought was the amount of land required to successfully homestead. But fast forward to 2023, and we fell in love and purchased a property with only 1 acre of land in an old mid-century farmhouse. We have spent the last 2 years transforming our homestead and have been able to create chicken coops, an orchard, citrus grove, soon-to-be greenhouse with raised beds for growing our annual produce, and even with all those things, still have enough pasture to raise our own goats and lambs. Homesteading is totally possible on a small acreage. It just requires vision, planning, creativity, and a whole lot of elbow grease. Over the last 2 months, we have been working on one of our favorite projects to date, a grape arbor built into our fence, a use of space that still allows us to drive to the back of our property, but is a beautiful bookend to our homestead orchard. They finally got this beautiful fence up. We're gonna be creative and we're gonna try to have, 5 to 6 raised beds for us to grow grapes in right along this fence. This felt like such a creative way for us to save space. We're also trying to create moments on the homestead of beauty, and so having a little spot where there's the chickens and having a little spot where there's like that full-on orchard, and then if you look over, I want to add this little seating area in with the grapes, and you can sit down and maybe drink a cup of coffee and grapes are kind of hanging over you. So we're trying to find ways to not only make the homestead functional but also really beautiful.
When we originally had the idea to build the grape arbor, we knew we wanted to incorporate it into the fence, but we hadn't seen any drawings or anyone do this before, and so we're kind of iterating. The first iteration was building these base posts into the fence posts, and those turned out great, but we were worried that the weight was going to start to bring the whole fence down. So we're starting to iterate by putting support beams coming down and incorporating those support beams into our raised beds. So I think step 1, check. Step 2, I started putting lattice across today, and I'm realizing that 2 things. First, this 2x material, 2x2, is starting to sag a little more than I would want it to, and also the sizing doesn't look right relative to the size of the base. So as we're building it, we're just kind of changing the design. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually incorporate some 4x that are gonna be the cross pieces, and then I'll still use the 2x on top to complete the lattice. All right, so for the first bed, I wanted to do a triangle on the corner here. And my plan was to do a 12-foot bed on the back with an 8-foot bed on the front. And so basically we would have a 4-foot diagonal section. And as you walk into the garden, it's just gonna kind of feel a little less boxy and a little bit more sleek. But I think that's just too steep of an angle because it's only a 2-foot bed. So that puts a 33-degree angle on it. And what I'm gonna end up doing is taking, instead of having 8 foot on the front, I'm gonna go 10 foot on the front. So it'll be a little less sharp of an angle. Alright, so this here's our center bed. I just finished putting in the gopher cage on the bottom of this 16 by 2 foot grape arbor bed. I also put some poly on the back of it that is gonna protect the back of this bed is the footer on the fence. So you can see this footer over here continues into the back of the bed. So I put a little poly just so that it's gonna last a lot longer. And we're not gonna have to go in and mess with the fence, because since we're butting the beds up against the fence, we're not gonna have access to repair the fence. So hopefully this gives it another 10 years. We also did the same thing over here. So the next step's gonna be to come in and put in some like tree material, some green waste to have a little bit of a hugelkultur bed, and then we'll come in with the dirt. All All right, we're digging out all these shrubs so that we can fill our raised beds with some hugelkultur material.
We went ahead and chopped those, and we are filling our beds with all the branches, and then we'll end up filling them with dirt, and then eventually planting.
All right, well, we just completed the grape arbor. The entire arbor is about 50 to 60 feet. It's basically 8 sections of fence that are about 7 to 8 feet wide. The first bed is a 12-foot bed, and on every fence post, I have a diagonal support beam, and then every other fence post, I've added a second post to help pick up the weight, and then just carried that design all the way through. So basically every other post is going to have a additional support. And really what we're thinking about is not just the weight of the grape arbor, but I'm expecting that the grapes are gonna carry a lot of weight as well. So we don't wanna bring the fence down. The second bed is a 16-foot bed, and the final bed is a 12-foot bed. All the beds are 2 feet deep, and basically every 4 feet, I installed another post just to kind of 2 things: help hold the beds together, as well as kind of give it a rustic aesthetic. And then I put a 6x border, both as kind of a top cap, as well as just a place to sit, whether you're harvesting grapes, or if you want to ultimately kind of harvest grapes off of the lattice itself, it's something to stand on. And so I think it's beautiful, as well as very utilitarian. As we continue down, we've got our last 12-foot bed. And really, ultimately, our design is to have a gazebo in this corner here. I've run sort of a string line just to kind of get a sense of it. We're still kind of figuring out what the design is going to be, but the goal is to carry this same aesthetic from the grape arbor into a diagonal gazebo, which will be a really nice seating area where you can see the entire orchard. And ultimately, we hope to see like more of our farm as that kind of comes together.
Okay, so I think that we're able to plant about 15 grapes on this entire 50 feet of beds that we have here. And because we're in California, we actually have a wonderful growing season. And so I got a couple different varieties that are gonna span the September, October timeframe. And so the first grape that I decided to get right here in our middle bed is our red grape. So here I have the flame, and so these are ready in that like August, September time frame. This is pretty standard when it comes to backyard table grapes. And then here I went on Etsy actually, and I looked for a variety that was also red but closer to being harvested in that September, October time frame. And so this is called a Autumn Royal. I think it's a little bit closer to like a black grape, but even so, it's very sweet and it's ready a little bit later. I want to make sure I'm staggering when I'm planting because I don't want to end up with an overabundance of grapes at any given time. I want to extend that harvest as much as possible. Over here in this bed that's empty, we actually have really good plans for that. My grandmother, who's very old, she's 95, has Concord grapes. Those are more like a juicing grape that has a seed and a really thick skin. I grew up eating it, but most people use them for Concord grape juice. I have a goal this fall of actually taking about 4 to 5 cuttings from that vine and planting her grapes from her house here. And so we haven't actually finished this yet, but this will be like a Concord grape / juicing grape section of the grape arbor. And then all the way down at the other end on our other 12-foot bed, I have our green grapes. Okay, I believe these are the Thompson seedless grapes, and these are green table grapes. and they are also ready to harvest more in the August-September timeframe. So they're kind of right on par with the flame seedless red grapes. And then I'm holding space out here to see if I can find a really sweet, almost like the cotton candy type grape variety. I'd love to find something close to that level of sweetness and plant that here along with our other green grapes. So I think for now, having 7 grapes planted is going to be perfect for our family right now while we kind of get situated on the other grape varieties that we're looking for. Okay, and then as you probably noticed, there's 2 empty spaces here and also down there. Originally, we were thinking about building in kind of a place to sit and hang out under the grapes. We've since then decided to put that over kitty corner of where our grape arbor ends. And so here we're actually going to be planting some olive trees, probably kick it out a little bit. And this is going to be kind of like a Mediterranean vibe. That's what we're going for. The seating area will feel Mediterranean. We'll probably have some artichokes and maybe some Meyer lemons in pots. Obviously the olive trees and then the figs. So we're planning on probably putting arches here and then having olive trees come up with maybe a couple pots down below. So here and there. And just really cute, sweet moment amongst the grape arbor. We talk a lot about how in our homestead we don't want it to just be functional, we want it to be really beautiful. And I think that those 2 moments, kind of like little bookshelves in the grape arbor, is going to be so adorable. Thank you to everyone who has been watching our videos and following along with us as we're building up our homestead. We thoroughly enjoy making these videos and kind of showing the progress of what we got to what we have now, and we plan on continuing to show you the progress updates that we have. Again, the good, the bad, and the ugly of starting a homestead from scratch. So we will catch you guys on the next video.